I'm a professor here at the Harvard Kennedy School and director of the Rappaport Institute for Greater Boston. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 2021 Rappaport Fellowship Closing Celebration. This is the 21st class of Summer Fellows, and we now have a community of 589 law and public policy alumni. For 21 years, these summer fellowships have been allowing graduate students from around the Boston area, from graduate programs and law schools, to spend a summer working in the public sector on some of the most important policy issues of the day. This year, fellows are working in the Attorney General's office, Boston City Hall, the State House, and many other agencies in state and city government all across the metro area. And they've been working on topics such as immigrant access to legal services, maternal health legislation, pedestrian safety, MBTA fare policy, and utilization of food assistance programs. And we're very much looking forward to hearing more about what each of you worked on later in this program. While there's a bit more positive energy coming out of Washington these days than there was when we came together a year ago, I would argue that it still remains the case that we are at a moment in our nation's history in which state and local government is where the action is. It is where problems are solved rather than being created. It is where incredible improvements in governance and service delivery are occurring by using breakthroughs in the use of data and technology. And it's the place to go if you want to work with incredibly smart, talented colleagues dedicated to the public good. And we're so grateful to everyone in this room for being here with us tonight and for helping to launch our current group of fellows on what we hope will be a lifetime of public service. Before we hand things over to the fellows, I want to acknowledge some very important people who are with us today over Zoom. First and foremost, Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport. I'm going to do a slightly longer introduction in a minute of both of you, but for now, thank you for your incredible generosity to the Rappaport Foundation, the Rappaport Institute, and the Rappaport Center, which is what makes it possible for us to do everything that we do, most importantly, this fellowship programs. Additionally, I want to thank our Institute staff, Catherine Carlson and Polly O'Brien, who've been managing the fellowship program and all the rest of the activities at the Rappaport Institute. I want to thank Linda Bilmes and Susan Krussel, who host the Summer Public Policy Finance Fellows that are associated with Linda's Greater Boston Applied Field Lab. And I want to thank our colleagues from the Rappaport Center at Boston College Law School, Dan Kamstrom, the faculty director, Lissy Medvedov, the executive director, and Cindy Nguyen, who also helps with the fellowship program. None of these programs would be possible without the extraordinary work and dedication of all the folks at these centers. Finally, I want to thank the supervisors and mentors of the fellows. They're the key people who make this fellowship program work. We had 19 new supervisors, including 2 supervisors who were Rappaport alumni this year, and we are so grateful to you for hosting our fellows and for allowing them to benefit from your experience. So now I have the distinct pleasure of more fully introducing Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport, who make this all possible. And what's extraordinary about Jerry and Phyllis is not simply that they have the vision of things that need to happen in the world, but that they actually transfer this vision to things actually occurring. And in Jerry's case, he has literally been changing the Boston community in 8 different decades. Back in the 1940s, when he was a student at Harvard Law School, he noticed that very little of the law school curriculum had anything to do with public policy. So he created a forum at the law school so that leading political figures could come speak. And that forum became such a big deal in the Boston area that it became broadcast over the radio as one of the key shows that in those days everyone in Boston listened to. A few years later, he helped manage Mayor Heinz's campaign for mayor, the key reformist mayor who ended the curly machine. And then in the early 50s, he became part of the new Bostonians movement. And that really led to a whole new generation of political leadership in Boston. And part of that work involved helping a guy get elected to the U.S. Senate named Jack Kennedy in I guess that must have been 52. Then in the 60s, Jerry saw that there was a real need to redevelop downtown Boston, that there was just a lot of untapped potential for economic activity and housing that wasn't occurring. And he built a housing complex that you can still see if you're driving to the airport and you see those signs that say, if you lived here, you'd be home now. That's the housing that Jerry built. And because the housing got built there, restaurants started opening up, and the whole government center project became viable. You know, if you think of the whole city hall in that area, and then ultimately Faneuil Hall in that area, all of that became viable to redevelop because Jerry got it started and had this vision of building housing in the early 60s that literally changed the face of downtown Boston. Then in the, I guess it was the 80s, he noticed that Harvard and its local communities was still not doing enough to benefit from each other. And he created a scholarship program so that local elected officials could come to the Kennedy School and study. And then after that, he created the Rappaport Institute and the Rappaport Center and the fellowship programs that we are celebrating tonight. And even today, even this year, Jerry calls me 2 or 3 times a year with ideas for things in the policy debate in Boston that are not being thought about right, that need forums, that need analysis. And so he's still having an impact today on the policy debate in the Boston area. Phyllis is also someone who has a vision and develops it into action. And the place where she's had the biggest impact, I think it's fair to say, is in the Cure Alzheimer's Fund, which has led to much of the most important research that has been done on Alzheimer's over, I actually don't know the exact time frame, but it feels like 10 to 15 years that I've been aware of it. And I'm not enough of a scientist to describe the breakthroughs that have come from that work, but I've heard Phyllis talk to me about it, and it is extraordinary what has come out of that work. I want to just say thank you to them, not just for making possible what we are here to celebrate tonight, but also for being examples of how one can see a need in the community and figure out how to actually go forward and fill that need and solve the problem and create things that weren't there before. I think they're just they remain a tremendous inspiration, I think, to all of us. All right, so I think I'm going to turn over to Phyllis now, who wants to say her own welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. We're so sorry not to be in the same room with everybody. So this program was my husband Jerry's idea. He wanted to apply top talent from the great academic institutions of this city to key problems in state and local government. And because he was at the top of his game in some respects when he was young, who's better than our fellow graduate students? And just as Jeff said, we're so grateful for the work that you do to fulfill this vision. And we're grateful for the support, particularly given this pandemic year, by your supervisor, Boston College and Harvard. I wanted to tell you a little bit about our philanthropy. Jeff mentioned some of it. We do fund 2 Boston area officials to pursue graduate degrees at Harvard Kennedy School. One elected official, one appointed official. We support numerous needs in mental illness. We endow a prize for contemporary art, which is awarded annually by the Cordova Sculpture Park and Museum in Lincoln, Mass. And in 2004, we and two other families co-founded the Cure Alzheimer's Fund. And we've raised and gifted over $130 million to help leading scientists collaborate worldwide to understand and stop this very complicated and terrible disease. It's the Olympics right now, and our logo is the laurel wreath for other recipients. We're proud of the many ways that you and other Rappaport fellows may break new ground, challenge society and improve opportunities for economic strength in our city and state. And we're really looking forward to hearing from our 2021 Public Policy, Law, and Finance fellows. Thank you.
Jerry, I know you're not going to speak, but would you say a quick hello?
Yes, I'd love to say hello. You've heard a great deal about the past. I'm looking at all of you, and I see the future. I'm really terribly sorry that this has to be a virtual meeting, even with the benefits of the technology of Zoom. I'm going to be 94 next month, and one of the things you've given me, looking at you all, is that next year I am sure and hopeful that we are going to all be in person, and I do hope that that you all will attend some of the events so that I can have a chance to meet you. I look forward to each of your reports tonight, but even more importantly, I look forward to you having the sense of satisfaction that I've had of having been engaged in urban affairs and municipal governance. And in 1952, I formed a committee that looked terribly much to the future and called it the New Boston Committee. And it's really obviously a great deal of satisfaction. I can look at the city today and know that it is a new Boston, and know that when I talked about planning a whole city, that one of the things you always had to do was make sure there were mistakes, because cities are dynamic, and if they're not fluid and they're not changing, they're not satisfying. But you are all growing up in a period of time where cities are in crises in a very different way, and very divided, and partisanship has to some extent separated that sense of unity that joined people in my era in terms of thinking about the future of the city. So I hope you all meet that challenge and find the satisfaction and look back eight decades later and say, God, it's been a good life, and the city's a good place to be and to spend time in. So thank you all, to the staff and to all of you, for continuing to give old timers like me hope. That's it.
Jerry, you got more youth in you than any of us here, Jerry.
Thank you, Phyllis and Jerry, for your comments. July 11th marked my 19th anniversary with the Institute, and I've learned so much from you both as we've worked together to create this program. As many of you know, I'm a huge soccer fan, and I just want to take 1 minute to show you how public policy is like soccer. To those on the sideline, policy in soccer seem easy. A ball and a goal, or a policy and an outcome. But it's ridiculously difficult to get there at times. Once you're on the pitch or in government, nothing is in your control. You need to believe in your skills and adapt to the situations around you as they're developing. This year, our fellows performed admirably in a fully virtual summer, from recruiting to selection and finally their placements. They are true superstars. In soccer and government, sometimes you need to go backwards to build a solid foundation for the game-winning goal or the policy decision that will help our communities the best. It isn't linear, and it can often be glacially slow to build up. But when it succeeds, it can be electric and can make you hungry for more. Finally, Even teams with the best talent and amazing skills, they can't go far without good coaching. So once again, thank you to all our supervisors and mentors for their coaching prowess. We can't run this program without you. Each fellow will have 90 seconds to present their reflections. Please hold their applause until you're at the end, but feel free to add your congratulations in the chat. And our first fellow is Will Atkinson. Take it away, Will.
All right, good evening all. My name is Will Atkinson and I applied my master's work at MIT's Technology and Policy program to issues of transportation equity at the Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. As my first role inside government, I am truly grateful to Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport for making it possible, as well as the sage guidance of Catherine and Polly, generosity of my mentors Vivian and Reese, and flexibility of my supervisor, Ben Miller. My role sought to measure who benefits from clean transportation policies using several data sources to expand the state numbers to the neighborhood scale. And so our resulting brief showed the need for complementary policies to address differing needs, from the high purchase costs of car buying students to the high fuel costs of suburban commuters, not to mention the urban areas with few cars and the rural towns with no transit. And so in this work, I saw the power of listening to many sides for the best ideas, and then persisting to keep those ideas from going through the cracks. This included scanning hundreds of public comments to incorporate demographic metrics from climate justice advocates, and in a side project on green building finance, I broadened their scope after affordable housing interviewees pointed to non-finance policies to scale the clean heating systems we need. So thank you all, and I can't wait to do more research to policy engagement and future public sector work.
Hi everyone, my name is Olivia Britton. I am a PhD candidate at Boston University in the Political Science Department. So this summer I worked for the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Advancement, where I worked with Carol Leone on Immigrants Lead Boston, a civic engagement course for immigrants who want to take a greater leadership role within their communities. So during this time, I worked on a civic capstone toolkit where we redesigned we reimagined this capstone project from last year, and we also worked on a photography facilitation group where we're allowing participants to give to contribute their photographs alongside as part of the program evaluation. So I will say the thing that was most important to me this summer was less is more. And given last year, the capstone project was difficult for people to complete because it was a really bigger task, and reimagining this toolkit, it was more feasible and tangible for participants to complete within their 10 weeks of this program. I'd like to thank the Rappaport family for this wonderful opportunity, and I just want to thank everyone again.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lauren Craig. I'm a city planning and transportation master's student at MIT, and this summer I got to work with the MBTA policy team. And I would just like to start by giving a huge thank you to Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport for creating this incredible opportunity that I got to be a part of. So this summer I had the opportunity to work on projects under both fare and pilot policy at the T, examining fare policy to complement the commuter rail transformation and building out an off-peak fare pilot study and model to look at the efficacy of discounting off-peak fares. I think particularly in 2021, this was a really interesting problem to dig into because our travel patterns have just shifted so dramatically over the past year and a half and really showcased a lot of the disparities that currently exist within the system. And so I think policies that can cater and adapt to the needs of different riders are crucial to an equitable recovery plan. I've been an avid transit supporter my whole life, but this is my first opportunity to actually get to work at a transit agency and gain firsthand experience. And so one of my favorite memories from the summer was getting to ride a number of the routes that we're currently running pilots on with my manager and really see firsthand the benefit to people's lives of the policies that, we work on can really have. And I think it just made everything I've ever learned in class feel that much more real. And as my manager really likes to say, good policy needs to be both effective and affective. And so I really credit this fellowship, my team at the MBTA and the Rappaport Institute for embodying that.
Hi everyone, my name is Alan Franklin. and I'm a recent graduate of the Harvard Kennedy School. I also would like to thank Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport for this opportunity. It was an excellent opportunity for me to learn, contribute, and grow. The project I worked on is called Equality, which is at its core, is a local public good. Pavement and participation focus on how inequalities in street conditions correlate to political engagement in local neighborhoods. My primary contribution in terms of the project was the processing and documenting and evaluating of pavement condition indices and also 311 service requests data across local neighborhoods. Through this project, I was really interested and really became appreciative of the sheer effort cities have to go through in terms of facilitating residents from issues ranging from graffiti, problems with potholes, and also broken streetlights. This is an awesome responsibility cities have and is often undertaken with limited resources and even more limited support. Once again, my gratitude to the Rappaports and the entire staff of the Institute. I would also like to thank Professor Bill Miss, Professor Benedictus Kessler, and also Susan Krussell from the HKS Boston Applied Field Lab. That was an important period for me because it really renewed my interest in commitment and it potentially holds as well. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brianna Broberg. I'm a rising 3L at New England Law Boston. And I'd like to start by saying thank you to the Rappaports for your incredible generosity that made this fantastic fellowship a possibility for me. I'd also like to thank Lucy and Cindy, as well as my mentors, Sean Fontes and Siri Nelson, and my internship supervisor, Anle, for all of your time and support and advice throughout the summer. I had the opportunity to intern at the Boston Mayor's Office for Immigrant Advancement, otherwise known as MOIA. And my supervisor and the entire MOIA team were really welcoming. They let me kind of jump in and really help with some substantive projects, including helping to develop programming to increase access to immigration legal services, and also coordinating with mayors from other cities around the country to advocate toward federal policy changes that will have positive impacts on our immigrant residents. I knew coming into law school that I wanted to study immigration law, but I realized as a result of this fellowship that I didn't fully appreciate how interconnected all types of policy concerns are with immigrant-related concerns. And I really feel like my universe kind of expanded as a result of this opportunity. I know that moving forward, it's going to change the way that I advocate on behalf of my immigrant clients, whether that's in the legal context or that's in navigating municipal systems. And I'm just really appreciative of the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Julian Orlando Salazar and I'm a student at BU Law. So first I want to just say thank you to the Rappaports for their generous support this summer. This summer I had the opportunity to intern at the City of Boston's Law Department. And since joining the Law Department in June, I've worked on a variety of long and short-term projects. I joke that I've learned a lot about garage doors this summer, but in all seriousness, I've had the incredible opportunity to work alongside city attorneys on issues related to zoning and historic commission appeals, health insurance contract negotiations for city employees, employment discrimination cases, and the Boston mayoral elections. On these issues, I've worked alongside a number of amazing attorneys that have not only trained me to be a better attorney, but have also taught me to be a more mindful public servant. Specifically, I've learned how municipal attorneys play an essential role in shaping public policy disputes on an everyday basis, and learning about how various areas where public policy can inform better everyday lawyering. Briefly, I want to just say thank you so much to Lissy and Cindy for their continued support, and to my mentors Patrick and Matt for their guidance. And of course, thank you again to the Rappaports.
Hi everyone, my name is Jacqueline Daigle and I'm a rising 3L at New England Law Boston. I just want to start by saying that I am so grateful to Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport for this really incredible experience. And thank you also to Lissy and Cindy, my mentors, Rick and Nikki, and my supervisor, David, for all your support, your leadership, and your guidance. Throughout my time in the internship, I've been working at the Civil Rights Division at the Office of the Attorney General, where I've really had this beautiful opportunity to speak with members of the community about alleged civil rights violations, which has just given me this finger on the pulse, so to speak, about really critical disability rights issues, which I'm really passionate about. Based on these conversations with the public, I've been able to support attorneys and research issues the community is facing to address these complaints. And I've realized that change can't happen unless people speak up and report to those in power, like Attorney General Healy. And that's how we really get the ball rolling on these meaningful social issues. Recognizing this has been really pivotal as I move forward into a legal career with a focus on law and policy. So thank you again, everyone, for just your support in this amazing opportunity.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Miguel Davila. I am a Master in City Planning student at MIT and a Policy Rappaport Fellow. This summer, I had the pleasure of joining Boston's Department of Neighborhood Development to assist with the city's mission to expand and preserve its affordable housing stock. I developed a tracking tool to monitor the construction cost increases in the COVID-19 pandemic, and I provided some key policy updates to the acquisitions opportunity programs with the help of the team. This placement encouraged me to work with a wide range of organizations from the public and private sector, which allowed me to really value the partnerships, solidifying partnerships and working towards maintaining them, especially in the context of the overarching and ambitious goals that the city has. I also learned that partnerships often come with challenges, and that the best way to resolve them is through strategic communication. I witnessed how my supervisor, Jessica Boatwright, approached these challenges with grace and focus, and how the D&D staff followed suit as a united front, mostly dedicated to the provision of dignified and affordable housing to Boston residents. Beyond the wonderful opportunity to learn about the intricacies in RFPs, proformas, construction budgets, construction permittings, I'm most grateful for the opportunity to work with thoughtful leaders and true team players. I would like to thank the Rappaport family for this incredible opportunity, the D&D staff, my supervisor, my mentors and professors, the cohort, and of course the Institute staff as well for their support along this process. Thank you all so much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Valerie Eisenson, and I am a rising second year in the Master of Public Policy program at the Harvard Kennedy School. I am so grateful to Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport for the opportunity to serve as a fellow for the Chelsea Public Schools this summer. I worked under the guidance of Dr. Erin Jennings, the district's Equity, Diversity, and Excellence Officer, on a project to elevate student voices to deepen the district's understanding of the student perspective on engagement, inclusion and belonging, and remote learning. Throughout the summer, I have interviewed and surveyed over 50 students and 25 educators, and am now in the process of collating what I have heard and learned into clear themes and actionable steps for the district to take to continue to support students throughout high school. Some important takeaways that have emerged thus far are the importance of trust between students and teachers as a foundation for meaningful learning experiences, and the challenge of ensuring that well-intentioned school-wide initiatives actually trickle down to the students themselves. After having taught in Chelsea for 5 years, this summer I was able to see the district from a higher level and engage in research that I had dreamed of while teaching. Incorporating student voice into strategic planning is often a goal, but rarely a reality in school districts. It was inspiring to be a part of a project in the Chelsea Public Schools as they truly strive to make student voice a pillar of their work. Engaging in communication and developing partnerships with students, educators, and families will surely be a part of my future as I transition from the classroom to education policy. The fellowship has also introduced me to an incredible network of fellows, alumni, and advisors, all of whom are engaged in critical work and with whom I know I will remain connected. A special thanks to Christine, Carol, and Polly for your mentorship throughout the summer. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Parsa Irfani. I'm a fourth-year medical student at Harvard Medical School. I would like to start by thanking Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport for giving me this wonderful opportunity this summer. One of my first experiences in public service. This summer I got to work at Mass Health. My focus there was on health equity, and I worked on two projects specifically. I've been helping develop policy around thinking about what health disparities should be measured at mass health accountable care organizations, whether it be disparities in race, socioeconomic status, or LGBTQ status, and then helping determine how to effectively tie these disparities measures to financial incentives in healthcare organizations. Simultaneously, I've been able to work on developing policies that expand Medicaid eligibility for incarcerated populations, a group of people in our community who are currently excluded from Medicaid coverage. My work this summer has exposed me to doctors and healthcare professionals who are tackling structural forces that keep people and their communities in cycles of poor health and poverty. And it has helped me realize that even though I hope to continue to have clinical service as the cornerstone of my career that drives my everyday work, I can take time and space throughout my career to serve patients outside the clinic room through my local and state government. With this lesson, I'm immensely grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Pedro Gonzalez and I am a dual degree student of Harvard Kennedy School and Stanford Graduate School of Business. I would like to start thanking Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport and Professor Linda Bilmes for the wonderful opportunity I had this summer to work as a Rappaport Finance Fellow. I continued the work of traffic safety began this spring in MLD 412 course, where as a group of 4 we gave recommendations to tackle the high pedestrian fatality rate of the city of Brockton. During the summer, I worked with the City Hall, where I focus on community engagement and communication strategies that will help the city implement more effective local public policies related to pedestrian safety. I conducted a landscape analysis of different community engagement strategies across public and nonprofit actors to create a benchmark of strategies and frameworks that will allow Brockton to improve their pedestrian safety. I also had the chance to meet with Brocktonians that shared with me their experience of their city and their hope to have a place where their children can walk on a safe way. Through this project, I tried to highlight innovative and effective strategies that have, in the long term, a better outcome than the traditional community meetings and surveys. During these 2 months, I reaffirmed my conviction that the government can have the best technical project, but without the support of the community and a proper communication strategy, they will not have the impact that policymakers are expecting. I also reinforced my devotion to the public sector and my will to keep devoting my life to improve the lives of less economically advantaged community and work in projects that save lives as this one I had in Brockton. Briefly, I would like to thank Professor De Benedictis Kessner, Catherine, and Susan for all their support during my internship, and Victoria, my mentor, for all her guidance during the summer. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Emily Dillon, and I am a second-year JDMSW candidate at UMass Law who spent the summer working in Representative Natalie Higgins' office. I served as the lead on 2 national-level sexual and domestic violence policy initiatives she has introduced in our state, and that work included a comparative analysis of all 50 states' legislation regarding both initiatives, as well as the creation of educational outreach materials to help promote the mass version of these bills. I also served as lead support of the Sexual Violence Task Force within the Mass Caucus of Women Legislators, where I helped the executive director plan their first meeting of the session and created another comparative analysis of all proposed SDV bills before the Mass Legislature. As a result, I obtained a bird's eye view of how every state in our nation approaches the needs of survivors, including some of the ways in which our own existing state law could be improved. And under Rep. Higgins and my mentor's supervision, I grew both professionally and personally, gaining a deep understanding of how both our government and justice system works, as well as further refining my definition of the type of advocate that I hope to become in the future. Thank you, Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport, as well as Lissy and Cindy, for providing me this opportunity, because I came to law school hoping I would get to help a handful of survivors, and instead got to play a role in helping every survivor in our state.
Hey everyone, I'm Brendan Kelly. I go to Suffolk Law. I work at the Ed Law Project. out of the Committee for Public Counseling Services, aka the Public Defender's Office this summer. First of all, I want to thank Phyllis and Jerry Rappaport for providing this amazing opportunity, Lissy and Cindy for facilitating all of the speaker programs, and for just generally being like awesome people. Marlise, Aaron, Michelle from the EdLaw Project for being great bosses and examples, and Anthony and Phil for being fantastic mentors. This summer I was able to do like a variety of cool things with the EdLaw Project, but one of the coolest things that I think I was able to do was to help put together a mandated reporter guide for educators, which gives teachers and administrators other options to direct families to like community services, as opposed to filing on the family, so that the families are able to like stay out of the DCF net and instead get the services that they need to be successful and stay together. In doing this work, I think one of the biggest things I learned was that some of the systems and operating procedures that I took for granted in our state, even knowing they could probably use reform, really need to be like wholly reconsidered to see if they're truly helping the people that they claim to help. And I got to see public policy from the ground level and see how policy affects the lives of so many people in our state. So I think that's a pretty invaluable experience, and I just want to thank everybody that made it happen.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marcela Familiar Bolaños, and I'm a master's in social work student at Boston College School of Social Work, and I had the pleasure of working at the Office of the Child Advocate. I would like to start by expressing my deepest gratitude to Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport. Thank you both so much for such a wonderful experience. This summer, I mainly worked on the OCA's Child Requiring Assistance project. I created a memo analyzing the CRA structure in Massachusetts and highlighted practices adapted by other states that should be taken into consideration when writing recommendations for improvements for the statute here. I also documented the various kinds of services that can be provided to youth in the CRA system and developed a proposal for how the OCA could work with partner agencies to further study service referrals and availability based on the framework I developed. Aside from this project, I was able to write a testimony supporting House Bill 2084, the Thrive Act, on behalf of the Child Advocate, and I helped update the handhold.org website, a project launched in collaboration with DMH to help parents navigate and access mental health services. This summer, I learned much more than I can fit in the time that I have. But my biggest takeaway from my time at the OCA is how important it is to listen to stakeholders and the people on the ground if we want to write good policy. It is the people who have the firsthand experience who can really tell us whether the legislation is working the way that we intended it to and where it's not. This is a lesson that I will take with me as I move forward with my career. Thank you so much. I also want to specifically thank Polly, Catherine, and my host, Melissa Threadgill, and my supervisor, Alex. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shanice Jacobs, and I am a rising fourth-year PhD candidate at BU School of Theology, studying ways that religious communities can actually have impacts on reducing the public health crisis of maternal mortality and morbidity. This summer, I had the pleasure of working at the Executive Office of Elder Affairs and Health and Human Services, and I am so grateful to the Rappaport Institution, the family, for offering funding. Thank you for that amazing opportunity, to Polly and Catherine for being amazing advisors throughout the process, as well as my direct supervisors, Leanne Winchester, Patricia Yu, and Secretary Elizabeth Chen. This summer, I had the opportunity to do a lot of extensive research across states to understand how they have their CNA, Certified Nursing Assistant, and Home Health Aide curricula set up, what it looks like to create bridge projects for them, and also how to expand living wages in order to diversify the workforce. In looking at different states, I was able to actually propose recommendations for how the state of Massachusetts could move forward in our own project of building a bridge curriculum, as well as different ways to get involved. And I think the biggest accomplishment is that my recommendations actually may be useful. So I'm super excited about that. In terms of the impact that it had on me, I was super grateful to see the policy side of things. Being someone with lived experience, with a father who was a paraplegic, going through the process of having people come into the home and help with care, it was amazing to be able to see the ways that I can enhance the curriculum in order to bring more people in who have diverse lived experiences and who also are able to add to the workforce and to help make it more of a living space for them. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm grateful to be able to carry this work forward.
Greetings, my name is Katie Marcinsick. I am a final year student at the Boston College School of Social Work, and this summer I worked with the Mayor's Office for Women's Advancement in Boston. I would like to express my deep gratitude to Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport for this opportunity, as well as the fellowship team for all the wonderful work you do. For the past 7 years, I've been working at the domestic violence shelters of Casa Marina. When you're doing this type of direct client service, it's impossible not to think, how did this person get here? How did this person end up homeless in poverty? And what can we do as a society to make it easier for those to leave abusive relationships? This fellowship allowed me to bring voice to the issues I see survivors face every day. Up to 91% of adult victims of violence and 73% of children who have pets at home describe incidents of animal abuse when they enter DV shelters. These numbers do not account for those who never left. When we put these statistics into context, you realize that veterinary staff who see animal abuse are also primary responders to family violence. The mayor's office gave me an assignment to create a brochure for vet staff explaining the difficulties pet owners face when leaving abusive relationships. In researching this project and talking with my mentors, Lissy and Tara, I was inspired to expand this assignment into an awareness training to help vet staff understand how to recognize and act when they see signs of interpersonal violence in families. My hope is that this training, along with the other content I created, can be used to push Boston towards being a community that does not tolerate violence and abuse. This summer taught me that with passion and creativity, we can make a difference. I'm excited to use the connections I made through the Rappaport Fellowship to further benefit our community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bobby Wang, and I'm a recent graduate of the Master in Urban Planning program at Harvard, and also a Public Finance Fellow. This summer, I had the pleasure of exploring with the City of Revere and the Massachusetts Area Planning Council a variety of policies geared at preserving housing affordability. This is a continuation of the work that I started as part of a field lab in the Rappaport Greater Boston Applied Field Lab. This past spring, where we dived deep into the details of inclusionary housing policy. In particular, how to maximize the benefits from new real estate development and how they relate to the housing needs of Revere's most vulnerable. You may have noticed that I'm using the future tense. This is because I'm still in my first week due to some visa delays. However, I've already had the opportunity to have insightful conversations with stakeholders ranging from housing advocates, community leaders, and real estate experts. This is a testament to the opportunities that this fellowship unlocks, and one of the two key reasons that I was drawn to this program, the other being the pedagogical value of experiential learning. Lastly, I'd like to thank Tech and Ruben from the City of Revere, Professor Bilmus and Susan from the Field Lab, Polly and Catherine from the Rappaport Institute, and of course, Jerry and Phyllis for your commitment to supporting emerging leaders and practitioners.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Kenny. I'm a student at Boston College Law School, and I'm an intern in the Integrity Review Bureau at the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Rappaport, for making this summer possible and for sparking this vibrant community. Thank you, Lissy and Cindy, for such an enriching summer. Thank you, fellow fellows, for being inspirational and friendly. And last but not least, thank you, David Lewis and Derek Kesselheim and Donna Padalano, my supervisors from the summer, who were exceptionally generous with their time and wisdom and genuinely fun to work with. DA Rollins established the Integrity Review Bureau to investigate credible claims of actual innocence and wrongful conviction and other circumstances that may have produced a result that is not in the interests of justice. So this summer, I helped the team screen applications from people convicted of serious crimes and to make recommendations to the DA on meritorious cases. The IRB exists to give wrongfully convicted people facing decades in prison another handhold at achieving justice. And through doing that, I've learned that wrongful convictions are really hard to detect, even harder to correct, and the process takes years and hundreds of hours. But from what I've seen, very few applications are entirely frivolous. And I've begun learning how to navigate that delicate balance in each case between victims' interests, both the victims of crime on one hand and the victims of injustice on the other. And I've seen how policy and law intersect daily in each case with DA Rollins' vision for a more fair justice system intersecting with the law as it is. So thank you again for this chance to be here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Patrick O'Connor, and I attend Harvard Law School. I would just like to start by thanking Mr. and Mrs. Rappaport for their generosity and vision that has made this opportunity available for me and so many others. On many occasions this summer, General Counsel Rhoda Schneider provided encouragement not to be afraid to ask simple questions. For one, that was to open up the lanes of communication with me and my supervisors. But a second reason was also because they would be very happy to actually get a simple question that might have a simple answer. But that's part of what it means to be in the public sector. Not very often do you get easy questions, and even more rarely are there any easy answers. For me, what that meant this summer as I was working on the ground level and a tangible level, it was things such as student records and balancing access and confidentiality. Things relate to student health in the time that we are living in right now, and predominantly those relate to school discipline. As I had the opportunity to work through these different issue areas, it also allowed me to think deeply about areas such as federalism, privacy, due process, and free speech. In a society where we so often educationalize our challenges that result from our societal shortcomings, schools can't really avoid so many issues that others can only speak to. And so I think that intersection between law and policy comes every day between teachers, students, administrators, and the work that's being done at DESE. Again, thank you for the opportunity, and I'd like to thank those Lissy and Cindy at the Rappaport Center, my mentors, Greg Bielecki and Jackie Fishkin, and all those at DESE, most importantly for their kindness, but also for making this summer such an enriching and meaningful opportunity.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mariato Kanafwa, and I'm a rising 2L at Boston College Law School. This summer, I interned at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education in their legal department with Patrick. First, I'd like to thank Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport for their generosity, which allowed me to take part in this very meaningful opportunity, as well as to Lissy and Cindy for their support. This summer, I was able to delve deep and learn more about the intersection of education, law, advocacy, and the impact they have on implementing lasting policy change. At DESE, through collaboration with various divisions, such as the Special Ed Policy Team, the Office of Language Acquisition, the Office of Professional Practices Investigation, and of course, the rest of the amazing legal department, I was able to get the experiential learning that I craved. I learned what it's like to facilitate stakeholder meetings with advocacy groups, solve and understand the complex legal questions that current regulations have yet to answer, how to collaborate across teams to implement regulatory change, and gained a truly authentic perspective on the balancing that goes into being a responsive and effective administrative department. My supervising attorneys were so intelligent, accommodating, and supportive of every question I had, every nerdy thought that came to my mind, and inspired my own passion each week to be better than I was before. Words cannot express my gratitude for this experience, and I will never forget it. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Setare Masi-Zadigan, and I am a PhD gerontology student at UMass Boston. I also want to start by thanking the Rappaports and the Rappaport Institute team for this incredible opportunity, in my case, to spend the summer with the City of Boston's Department of Neighborhood Development. As my primary project, I sought to uncover the true cost to operate supportive senior housing. I analyzed budget data and interviewed local housing providers to help DND understand the variation in service provision and cost to support low-income older adults in senior housing. I'm assembling my findings to inform future policy that enables continued development of innovative service-enriched housing. I have also had the pleasure of interviewing housing leaders in cities nationally to seek creative approaches to funding affordable housing development and preservation. I've felt proud to be working with Boston, a city consistently lauded by others, and more important, with my supervisor and mentors at D&D, who bring a remarkable level of dedication and expertise to their work. Jessica Boatwright and her team navigate the labyrinth of funding pathways, receive developer proposals with an open mindset, and field calls from city residents who are directly served by their efforts. I started this summer knowing that I had much to learn from this opportunity, my supervisor, mentors, and my fellow cohort, and I am leaving with my expectations having been exceeded. I have seen that there is heart in policy, and I have a strong sense that my work is just beginning. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ayana Miller-Smith, and I'm a third-year PhD student in Criminology and Criminal Justice Policy at Northeastern University. I would first like to say thank you to the Rappaports for their generosity in this opportunity. Since beginning my PhD program in the fall of 2019, when I first became aware of the Rappaport Fellowship through an alumni of the program, I knew it was a program that would be an excellent opportunity to give me insight into and prepare me for the public policy world. I had the opportunity to have a joint placement at the Office of the Child Advocate and Department of Youth Services. I engaged in a mixed method exploratory project examining the issue of racial and ethnic disparities in youth arrest rates in Massachusetts. Data indicates that Black and Hispanic/Latino youth experience disparities in almost every single county in Massachusetts. The goal of this summer was to identify how we can tangibly target this issue despite the limitations of systemic issues beyond our scope. My project had multiple components, including a literature review summarizing the current state of knowledge around this issue, identifying potential stakeholders, both locally and nationally, that could provide insight into how we can tackle this issue, as well as a memo identifying possible policy solutions, as well as looking at the data of current youth arrest rates to identify any trends that may also inform future policymaking. This summer re-emphasized for me the importance of evidence-based policymaking, as well as the need to bring stakeholders together, as often our systems are interdependent and issues cannot be just resolved in one place. Further, our weekly sessions and being able to be connected with other scholars doing such wonderful work in the Boston area opened my eyes to many other ways public policy impacts us all. I want to give a special thank you to my supervisors, Melissa Threadgill and Christy Palizano at the OCA and Dave Chandler at DYS. I am very grateful for this opportunity, and I know I would take these experiences with me as I continue throughout my academic career and tenure.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tora Nelson, and I'm a third-year social policy PhD student at Brandeis University. This summer, I worked with the Department of Public Health's COVID Community Impact Survey team, or CCIS. At CCIS, I researched systems of oppression and structural violence and the direct impacts on health and well-being marginalized populations endure as a result, otherwise known as structural determinants of health. The objective of my time with the CCIS team was to create accessible resources, framing and connecting structural violence to poor health outcomes using racial justice and trauma-informed frameworks. It was important for us to use these frameworks for a dissemination of information that holds the ongoing trauma of structural violence my community and other marginalized communities experience with care. As this deadly pandemic persists, I'm feeling a bit more hopeful, knowing that teams of people at the Massachusetts Department of Public Health are serious about investigating and addressing anti-Blackness, cis-heterosexism, ableism, and more for healthier communities in Massachusetts. It is this kind of work, which is a lifetime's work, that cultivates the possibility for trust and recognition between marginalized communities and the state. I'm grateful to have been a part of this work, and I want to sincerely thank the Rappaports, my mentors, and the Rappaport Institute staff for making this possible. Thank you also to my supervisors, Sabrina, Sonori, and Lauren, for exhibiting the intention and ethic of care required to do such necessary and critical work centering marginalized communities. And finally, thank you to my cohort for sharing your genius over the course of our fellowship. I've learned so much from each of you and feel encouraged knowing that our work is shaping a more equitable future.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nancy Sandoval, and I am a rising second-year student at Boston College School of Social Work. I spent the summer interning at the City of Chelsea, working on childcare and early childhood initiatives. Throughout my time there, I conducted surveys, facilitated focus groups, and interviewed mothers to better understand the barriers they faced in accessing affordable childcare. From these interactions, I gained insights into how the pandemic has disproportionately impacted women of color and their economic and social mobility. In addition, this research has taught me the importance of telling these women's stories in their own words, as this work has been a collaborative effort. As a child of Latino immigrant parents, I was especially drawn to work in Chelsea, and I am honored to have had this opportunity and be able to echo the community's stories. In closing, I specifically would like to thank the Rappaports for this opportunity, as well as my supervisor, Alexander Train, and my mentors, Jeffrey Sanchez and Takia Myers, for their continued support and guidance. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Ramon, and I'm a rising second-year law student at Boston University School of Law. I'd like to start by thanking the Rappaport family for the opportunity to serve as a fellow at the Office of Boston City Councilor Lydia Edwards. After witnessing the social and economic impacts of the pandemic, I took on this fellowship to support our local government in their efforts to mitigate the damage and to put forth legislation that would continue to build a better social safety net for the future. What I've experienced over the past 8 weeks has taught me several lessons. Foremost, that local government is very underrated and really is where effective governance happens. I attended several committee hearings, city council meetings, and collaborated with community grassroots organizations to discuss the many issues that the residents in East Boston, Charlestown, and the North End face. Most recently, I had the opportunity to propose two possible policy initiatives that could address some of these issues. As I was spending many hours researching the issues being flagged by community advocates, I realized quite a few things. First, that local governments have very powerful tools at their disposal that can be used in creative ways to address the many systemic issues that are otherwise seen as issues for state or federal governments to deal with. And secondly, that I have a deep passion for preserving affordable housing and advocating for increased protections for low-wage workers because I believe that the two issues are incredibly intertwined. I was truly struck by the community's strong involvement in local politics and the innovative solutions put forth by Boston's own residents. I'm truly inspired by the work being done here in Massachusetts, and I'm so grateful to Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport for the opportunity to witness it all firsthand this summer. I'd also like to express my gratitude to Lissy, Cindy, and my mentors Lourdes and Paula for their much-needed guidance and incredible generosity. This experience has been so enriching and has really enforced my love for advocacy and public service.
Hi everyone, my name is Ruchi Rahamurthy and I'm a student at Northeastern University School of Law and Tufts University School of Medicine. First off, I would like to thank Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport for this incredible opportunity. My placement this summer has been at the Office of State Representative Liz Miranda. This summer I worked on a myriad of things, but primarily I worked on maternal health policy and criminal justice reform. I researched legislation of other states, drafted talking points for town halls, and attended community organization meetings. Because of our work this summer, we are in the process of passing bills to include dual services and Medicaid coverage, bills to extend postpartum coverage to a year rather than 60 days, and working on a report to combat racial inequities in maternal health. Most importantly, I've learned how imperative community engagement is in building and passing legislation. Thank you, Rep. Miranda, Kevin, and Rochelle for being a great team and teaching me so much. Thank you to Lissy and Cindy for navigating us through this summer, and my mentors, Kate and Becca, for their supportive advice. And thank you again, Jerry and Phyllis. I'm forever grateful for such a fulfilling opportunity.
Good evening. My name is Mecca Smith. I'm an EDLD candidate at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, and I'm really grateful to have had the opportunity to work on the exact topic I was interested in exploring this summer, which was how remote learning experiences address disparities in access to and use of learning tools in education. So like the fellows before me, I want to express my thanks to the Rappaport family and the foundation for the chance to simultaneously learn and serve this summer. And over the past few weeks, I've been zooming in with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's remote learning team, which was created in the spring of 2020 to provide technical assistance to districts in the wake of the pandemic. I supported this team's strategic planning process to transition from remote learning to an educational technology or ed tech team. I provided comparison research data, facilitated planning protocols, and my deliverables included a work plan for this upcoming school year that features a new mission, vision, goals, and metrics. One of my foundational learnings was just simply how a state agency works. And the part of Dusty where I worked, in my opinion, works like a train depot. There's this constant flow of people and information. And I was exposed to a world of organizations that are all working to strengthen education opportunities through technology. And it was a new learning for me to see the reach and the power of the State Department and how it can bring together many groups of people for a common cause. And lastly, I really want to publicly thank my summer supervisor, Jackie Ganser. She couldn't be here tonight, but this was her first summer hosting a Rappaport Fellow. She took a chance on a cold email, and I'm really grateful for her warm welcome and her continuous support this summer. She was exactly what I needed at this time. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Adriana Spindle Jackson and I'm a third-year doctoral candidate at the BU School of Social Work. This summer I worked in Rep. Natalie Higgins' office supporting housing and homelessness legislative efforts. I took a lead role in supporting legislation that would shift the current emergency housing response toward non-congregate shelter. Through this work, I gained an understanding of the day-to-day activities necessary to push legislation forward and the important balance of legislative work and constituent and advocate engagement. I was able to visit the low-threshold, non-congregate shelter that was started last winter in Leominster, during a time that many mass shelters transitioned to hotels, motels, and other non-congregate settings due to COVID. Speaking with guests who now have a space of their own exemplified the direct impact the legislation I've been supporting can have. As a social worker and researcher, I hope to foster change and disrupt historically oppressive structures to benefit our most vulnerable populations, and this summer has deepened my appreciation for the role that state and local public policy play in these efforts. I want to sincerely thank the Rappaports for this incredible opportunity, Polly and Catherine for their support, my mentors Ramon and Layla for their sound guidance, and Rep Higgins and Isabel Alera, who were incredible supervisors and teachers this summer. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Madeline Stump. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm a rising second-year Masters of Public Health candidate at Boston University. I would like to thank Phyllis and Jerry Rappaport for the incredible opportunity to participate in this summer's Public Policy Fellowship with the Rappaport Institute. My fellowship this summer has been with the Transgender Emergency Fund of Massachusetts, supervised by the wonderful Chastity Bowick and Sasha Goodfriend, in collaboration with the Massachusetts Commission on LGBTQ Youth. Here in Boston, as well as in many other cities across the country, there are a handful of homeless shelters for youth, which are fairly trans-inclusive. But once these youth age out of these programs, or if individuals arrive or become homeless in Boston older than these programs allow for, they too frequently find existing shelters for adults to be at best intolerant, if not outright violent, places to be, or places to exist as people who are both transgender and homeless. To the point that a disproportionate portion of homeless trans people will choose unsheltered homelessness. During my fellowship, I completed 3 research projects promoting the development of the Trans Emergency Fund of Massachusetts' upcoming transitional housing project, made by and for currently and formerly homeless transgender people. This research is already being used and will continue being used to determine aspects of the housing project, including what types of rooms and amenities are needed, what staffing should look like and how they are trained, as well as what types of workshops will be available for guests of the housing project. To me, this fellowship has been an opportunity to see the transformative ways research can affect policy, can affect daily lives of marginalized communities in real time. I look forward to taking with me what I've learned from this summer's fellowship, moving forward towards my future as a public health practitioner and policymaker. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Tang. I'm a dual planning and public policy student at Harvard Design and Kennedy Schools. I really want to thank Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport for the opportunity to work with mass development this summer. I did preliminary research on how the Transformative Development Initiative, or TDI, could be adapted or scaled for non-gateway cities and rural entities so that the organization can expand beyond TDI's current focus on gateway cities. So an end product has been a detailed shortlist of places that could be suitable for the program adaptation and how the needs of these places align with mass development's resources. I learned that you really need to be able to explain yourself and the decisions that you make, especially when you're setting guidelines that people might reference in the future. For example, we justified what income levels to include and considered how diversity might not look the same between big cities and small towns. I really appreciate my supervisor, Laura Christopher, who helped me understand the why behind a lot of these criteria. I want to keep working with data as a way to drive decisions in the public sector. I haven't come across as many data points that explicitly indicate opportunity, so that's something that I want to get better at, identifying opportunities in concrete data-driven ways along with me. So thank you to the Rappaport family, Polly, Catherine, my mentors, the cohort, and everyone else here.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ian Ramsey North. I'm a rising third-year student at Boston College Law School. This summer, I worked with the Consumer Protection Division of the Massachusetts Attorney General's Office on a number of ongoing investigations and matters. So out of an abundance of caution, I just want to talk a little bit tonight about consumer protection law and public policy. Massachusetts' main consumer protection law makes unfairness illegal in commerce, but you could fill a library with writings about the nature of unfairness, so our legislature didn't really even attempt to define it in the actual law text. Instead, they left that work to the Attorney General and the Massachusetts courts to try to build out some meaningful sense of what unfairness means. And this summer, I had the great experience of seeing the seriousness of purpose with which the Attorney General and the court took that on, and how strong our state's consumer protection laws really are as a result of that, at least relative to other states. As law students, we get a heavy dose of the common law, so it often feels that we're working in the shadow of some compromise worked out centuries ago between the king, aristocrats, and peasants over pasture land in medieval England. So it was really refreshing for me to see the freedom that comes with a law that identifies a need, allows lawyers to take a humane, common sense, and modern approach to meeting it. But to do so, lawyers need policymakers with vision, and policymakers need to trust the lawyers and the judges to whom they're entrusting that vision. It's a collaboration, and it's one that I hope to spend the rest of my career developing and strengthening. So I would very much like to thank the staff of the Consumer Protection Division, the dedicated staff of the Rappaport Center who made this summer so enriching, my wonderful fellows, my wise mentors, and of course, Phyllis and Jerry Rappaport for the generosity that allows us all to do this very educational and important work.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer White, and I'm a rising 2L at UMass School of Law. I would like to thank Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport for the wonderful opportunity this summer. I had the opportunity to work in Senator Lovely's office on projects related to sexual abuse prevention legislation, an analysis of how the foster care review process works nationwide, and the importance of each foster care case being reviewed in an impartial and routine way so that children in foster care can access the services that they need and can have a chance at the best outcomes possible. I learned that Massachusetts is one of only 8 states in the country that does not have an independent foster care review system, and the potential conflicts of interest that arise from this. This experience has strengthened my drive to work in public policy related to juveniles with multi-system involvement and to create and work on policy to help improve their lives. Thank you to Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport. I want to thank Senator Lovely, Joanna Wakeland, and the rest of Senator Lovely's staff. Absolutely incredible people. And I want to thank my mentors, Sarah, Kim, and Emily Armstrong, and especially Lissy and Cindy for all the support this summer.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Judy Tuzin, and I'm a rising second-year student in the Doctor of Education Leadership Program at Harvard Graduate School of Education. First, like everyone else, I just want to say thank you to Jerry and Phyllis Rappaport for your generosity in making this fellowship experience possible for all of us. This summer, I was blessed to work with the Office of the Child Advocate alongside Melissa Threadgill, and for my project, I analyzed the Child Requiring Assistance statute and explored how schools, courts, and local family resource centers might collaborate to help reduce the filing of truancy-based CRA petitions, particularly with an eye towards which students and communities were being most impacted by the filings. I feel confident that my recommendation to gather and disseminate data, not just at the county level, but also by district and by school, will allow more young people and families to receive targeted and timely supports. I also highlighted communities where collaboration is making the difference in truancy prevention. My time with Melissa and the OCA helped me better understand that getting from an idea to policy to actual impact on the ground takes deliberate and sustained effort. It's not enough to get the change written into policy. You then have to ensure that the infrastructure, the people, the funding, and the operating mechanisms are also put in place. I'm walking away from this experience with a deeper appreciation and respect for all it takes to create and change policy. I often thought that policy is the stuff up there that gets in our way on the ground. I now see policy work as a vital means for creating the lasting systemic change we hope to see. Thank you, OCA, and thank you to the Rappaports.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Velasquez, and I am a tri-degree student at Harvard Medical School, Business School, and the Kennedy School of Government. I just want to start off by thanking Catherine, Polly, Phyllis, and Jerry for your time and investment in all of us here today. This summer, I had the privilege of interning with the Department of Public Health, and my main project focused on hospitals throughout the state of Massachusetts. So through in-depth interviews and extensive research, I developed a report on the involvement of hospitals in upstream drivers of health, including social needs and social determinants of health, political determinants of health, and structural racism. I learned many things, but broadly, I learned that hospitals can be significant change agents when it comes to these upstream drivers of health. Both chief executive officers and health equity leaders believe in the relationship between upstream drivers and population well-being, and they predict greater time and financial investments in most of these structural factors over the coming years. However, I also learned hospitals are most effective and patients are best served when the private sector is aided by state agencies, such as the Department of Public Health. This was an important lesson for me as a future position policymaker and believer in cross-sector partnerships. These learnings from my summer will ultimately be translated into policy recommendations in the coming weeks, such as ensuring that the department evaluate determination of need investments related to substantial hospital capital expenditures through an anti-racism lens. Once again, I want to thank everyone here today, and especially Jerry, Phyllis, Polly, and Catherine for your support this summer.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Yao. I'm a PhD candidate at the BU School of Social Work. I would like to first thank the Rappaport family for the wonderful opportunity I had this summer. I had the pleasure to work with my supervisor, Catalina, and colleagues at Boston Mayor's Office of Food Access. So over the summer, I conducted stakeholder interviews with community outreach partners to address food insecurity and to understand the barriers to SNAP and WIC program participation. I also analyzed the impact of recent policy changes to SNAP and COVID relief policies. Informed by stakeholder-approved strategies, I co-led outreach efforts to help destigmatize food assistance programs and to simplify the application process for residents. This experience helped me understand the importance of community partnership for local and city governments to effectively address food issues, especially during the current public health and economic crisis. I learned that food policy is not just about distributing food to families in need, but also about building relationships and trust. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for making.
Great. Well, thank you all. Thank you, fellows, for your extraordinary work this summer and for your commitment to public service and for your inspirational words tonight. I think I've done probably 1,500 Zoom calls this year, but this was by far the best. Hearing such an extraordinary range of work in the public interest and hearing your stories and your plans about the future is just it's so nice at the end of what's been a very hard year. So thank you to all of you, and I guess I would like to invite all the people who aren't fellows to unmute for a moment and join me in thanking and giving some applause to our fellows.
Jeff, can I just say thank you?
Yes.
I'd just like to say thank you to all of you who said thank you to us. One of the things I hope you all will do is, first of all, you made this Zoom meeting really work. It was wonderful seeing all your presentations. But I do hope that you will maintain the relationships amongst yourselves, and two, that you will stay engaged with the Rappaport Institute and Rappaport Center, and that you will become mentors for the next generation of Rappaport fellows and be supportive of them, and that you will keep us informed of your accomplishments and lives. We do have the Rappaport Connects, which attempts to link the 500 and some odd 60, I guess, fellows, so that we can share each other's lives and share your respective insights over your careers and reach out to each in a way of continuing to have a network. And that continuing involvement will be a very meaningful way of fulfilling the thanks that you've expressed to Phyllis and me, because obviously we'd like this to continue and to succeed, and we'd like you to share it and provide some of the future leadership. So thank you all, and I wish you all the luck in your careers. And as I said, I hope we will all have a chance of meeting in person, but this really turned out to be a wonderful substitute. Thanks.